Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Live from the Emerald Isle. Morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good. And I'm feeling so happy to have the Premier League back. How are you feeling?
It's a good day.
Yeah.
It's a very good day. I mean, we've been waiting for this all summer long, and the opening weekend didn't disappoint. There was lots of goals, lots of stuff to look forward to for some teams, and then I think other teams, they're where they expected to be.
Well, can we just start off with my team in the Championship, because it was on Sky Sports and it was an early kick-off on Saturday, and the commentators were saying we're expecting a bit of a cagey affair here between Coventry and Derby. Ended up being 5-3 to Coventry. So not good for Derby, but nonetheless, we had a great free kick. There's a few little highlights in there for us to take away. We just need to shore up the defence now and get some injuries back. So that was a good way. That's how I started my weekend. Well, I started, of course, with Liverpool on Friday. But what you been watching?
Well, the Championship is definitely more on my radar this season than it was last season. You know, of course, we have Hollywood FC Wrexham there now, so I'm paying a bit more attention, just because of that. And the great thing about it is, Derby might have lost this match, but there's still 44 to go.
Yeah.
So it's a long season.
Do you know what, as well? It's coming home to roost again for me, as far as I'm realising just the quality of the teams that are in that Championship, and also how difficult it is to get out of that league, because you've got quite a few teams that are vying for promotion and for the playoffs, and so it is going to be I think it's going to be a good season. Coventry, of course, Frank Lampard, great. He got a good team going there. He's got them scoring, scoring 5 goals. So yes, it just felt like after that it's going to be a long season for Derby, but there is time for us to pull back. We'll see.
It is, and they're not the only team. There's a few teams in the Premier League who are going to be facing long seasons. I think I'd like to start off with West Ham and their Sunderland match, because everyone was I think everyone's expecting West Ham to be bottom of the table, 15th, 16th, kind of best performance. But no one is really sure where Sunderland's going to be, because obviously they've spent what is the 6th most out of any team in
Europe.
Europe.
7 new players, I think, or something like that. I'm not
and it's been a massive overhaul. They lost 2 really good players in Bellingham and Watson, so they sort of, I guess, really tried to mend that loss, and it seems to have worked, because they've returned with a bang. I think it's 8 years since they were last in the Premier League, 2017, and it's worked. I think when you look at, say, the other promoted teams like Leeds have definitely invested more in defence. They've got a lot of defenders in. Sunderland are on the opposite end of the spectrum. All their transfers have been attackers.
Yeah.
So, and it's paid off. 3-0 against West Ham. That's sort of where we expect them to be. 17th. 18th, so if they're able to take on West Ham.
And West Ham got Chelsea this week on Friday, so that's going to be another.
Not looking, they're not looking too good there either. No. But Chelsea had a low key affair with Palace. There wasn't really much to talk about except Eze's free kick. That was just
what was this thing about this little known rule about being a metre away or whatever it is from the wall of the Chelsea wall, which I've never come across that rule before.
I haven't either, actually. I don't know where it came from. It was obviously in the Premier League handbook for referees.
2017 it came in, apparently.
2017, I actually hadn't heard of it. I think Palace can still be quite happy with the performance. I thought they're more creative, kind of dangerous side of points in the match. I think out of the two teams, Chelsea have to be most disappointed with that draw, especially because we kind of, there's a lot of expectations on them after that Club World Cup performance. So this definitely wasn't the start they wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think Chelsea got so much quality that they're going to be good. And even Arne Slot in his interview last week was saying that Chelsea looked really good, and he actually expected. He said that he thought Chelsea would win it last year, but Liverpool won. So he rates Chelsea a lot. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think they're going to be a good team. I'm going to watch that match on Friday, definitely. What else has come across? What about? I'm going to ask you now about the Liverpool match. Liverpool is a bit shaky in defence, I thought.
There's some alarm bells going there, and of course we all expected great things of Liverpool this season, but we're forgetting that there are some great players in Liverpool that are getting a little bit older, and I definitely didn't take that into account when I was placing them on the league, because you just always presume, Van Dijk, Salah, they've always just, and Alisson, they've always just been absolutely top players. And age, just didn't seem like an equation. But I definitely thought that Van Dijk got outperformed in that match. There were still really bright spots for Liverpool. Of course, Chiesa coming off the bench to seal it, and Salah as well.
And who's this new guy up front? I forget his name now.
Tite.
Yeah, he looks pretty good, doesn't he?
I loved him. I thought he was scoring and assisting Cody Gakpo. And Salah is third on Liverpool's all-time score list, which is that's just insane. And in some points, it lets you know how much of an impact he's had. The unfortunate part about it was that Bournemouth looked quite good. Could have went either way. But then there was also an incident off field with Antoine Semenyo, where he was racially abused by a fan in the Anfield stands. So that wasn't what you want to see, especially this early in the season. No. It should have been a game all about the teams and Diogo Jota and all that. But the good news is that it's seeming that the Premier League and Anfield and Anthony Taylor and the two teams really took it seriously. Play was stopped. The fan was removed, and Semenyo then went on to score 2 goals. So that is the best response you can have to something like that. I think it truly shows his character, and it truly showed where the Premier League is now.
Absolutely. Now let's talk possibly about Man United and playing Arsenal. I thought Arsenal very average yesterday. I must admit, I didn't think they were really at the match, and I'm going to say Man United looked the better team overall. But of course, results are based on goals. So, what was your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I thought that Arsenal weren't looking like their best selves. But at the end of the day, when you want to become champions, it's about getting through those matches however you can. It isn't about being, the most stylistic team, the most energy-packed team. It's about finding ways to win and then just locking in and making sure that you get those points. But that being said, if we're looking at, this is the start of the season, this isn't February or March, Man United definitely looked more prosperous, I thought. Their attack was much more potent. I was kind of stunned with Mbeumo and Cunha, because I didn't know what to expect. Everyone's seen the numbers, everyone's seen the created chances and the XG, but it's tough to think about those and think, those merit 70 million, and we saw the highlights. But one thing with Manchester United is highlights. We've seen great, fantastic, phenomenal, legendary players come to Manchester United and fail. So there was always that, that niggling doubt in our minds on whether these two could make an instant impact. And I have to say, I was really impressed with them. I mean, Mbeumo in the first half, Cunha in the second half, just constantly creating chances. One piece of play that blew me away was when Cunha took it, a high ball before the halfway line, and tricked his way around a player, and then brought it all the way up, progressed it through the middle of the field to the box, and managed to pass off Mbeumo, which was only foiled by the sort of Ahmed and Mbeumo tripping over each other almost. So it was just really impressive play, and it's something we didn't see from Manchester United last season, was them progressing the ball, especially through the middle. I was really impressed with that. And of course, Arsenal's Calafiori's header was just sort of a blunder from Man United. But I think it's definitely positive for United. There's still some doubts there because, they created a lot of chances, but at the end of the day, created chances don't win matches. Taking them do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's not great. And Amorim has sort of an unsavory stat right now that out of his first 28 Premier League matches, he's lost 15. And that's, that's not really a great stat to have at Old Trafford.
But no, not at all. I did think, though, there was some room for optimism. I think the new signings were looking good, and I forgot the name of the lad now who came off the bench. Big, tall lad, young lad. And he bodes well. I think it's gonna be good. It looks like they're buying some players that actually the fans can get behind a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say the two positions, if they fill those, then I would definitely rate them higher. Currently, I have them around 8 or 9th in my prediction of the Premier League table. I think if they got a central midfielder and a goalkeeper, I would have to put them a little bit higher because they are looking like a threat right now. Yeah,
I must admit I wasn't impressed with the goalkeeper at all yesterday. But anyway, for Man United. Right, what else have you been watching?
I watched the Tottenham Hotspur and Burnley match, which was fairly emphatically Spurs game 3-0.
Spursy.
We weren't too surprised by that because Burnley, I think, on everyone's predictions are going straight back down in 20th. We've seen fairly poor seasons from them in the past. They've lost Trafford, who was really a huge part of the reason that they only conceded 16 goals last season in the Championship, which is phenomenal. But if you look at his expected saves, he was making 12 per match, which was really, really impressive. So losing him was a big part of their defence. And, of course, Spurs are now sort of in this new era under Thomas Frank, and it began with a very commanding win. I thought Kudus was amazing. I loved him in the PSG match. I loved him here. Richarlison was back. He netted a brace, which he had a stunning volley behind as well. So I think Spurs just came out the gates early, and they just were really, really pressing Burnley hard, and Burnley couldn't really do much about it.
Okay, now we're going to maybe wrap up the Premier League here by talking about Manchester City. I thought they looked pretty good. I've got to admit, I thought it looked a bit like the old City from a few years ago even. Pep Guardiola's bought a few players and looking pretty good for City. Great start for them.
Yeah, I think it's kind of gone under the radar how much money they've spent this season because Liverpool and Man City and Liverpool and Man United and Sunderland are spending so much, so it's hard to remember that City have spent nearly 200 million themselves on bringing in players that they think will strengthen the side, and they have Xerxes scored as well. Haaland was back, which is scary. We kind of saw a subdued side of Haaland last season, and subdued was still very scary.
Yeah, scores and 2 on these first match of the season. Yeah,
so it's kind of scary to see them where they are now, and I would rate them very highly. The only thing that I could see holding them back is injuries, and that's what held them back last season. That if they do lose 1 or 2 players, of course, Rodri was in that bracket as well.
Is he back yet or not?
He is. He's available for matches, and whether he reaches the lengths he was before, we don't know. But I can't see why he wouldn't. I mean, he's a world class player. But it was. I think more than anything, it was a statement win from City. 4-0 against Wolves, who are a team who are going to struggle this season. I think a lot of people have them as going down, and I personally have them in probably 19th in my table because I just haven't seen them make any massive improvements in the transfer window. So it's not like this was a top of the table team, but it's still...
you still got to win it. You still got to do it, haven't you? So, right, let's move on to Champions League predictions then, please.
Yeah, it's always hard this early in the season to say who's going to win and who's going to progress far.
But do it anyway.
Well, yeah, we can make guesses, and I just have to put that in there in case I get everything wrong.
Little caveat there.
So for my quarterfinals, I picked out some teams that I think are surefires. Real Madrid, I think, of course, Modric's gone. They've got a new coach in. There's currently injury issues or worries with Rodrigo and Vinicius, but I still think they're an elite team. And I think it's going to be hard to stop them in the quarters, even at that.
Yeah,
they're just that team. And Xabi Alonso has a tradition of being a winner. Whether that translates over to Real Madrid, we'll have to see. It really is. If they were maybe a year or two into Xabi Alonso's management reign, I'd put them higher, but right now there's just a big question mark over them because of that. Another team I'd have to put into the quarters as surefires, Arsenal. I don't think Gyökeres is a complete answer up front. We sort of, it wasn't too impressive against Man United, but also it's very early to judge. But besides, you take them out of the equation, they're still a very good team.
Absolutely.
And a bit short, I think, of Europe's elite, finals, semi-finals. But I think the quarters is definitely achievable for them. Another team I see getting to the quarterfinals is Bayern Munich. I don't think they are the team they were 5 years ago, but I would be very surprised if they don't get to the quarters at least. So then moving on to the semis. And two teams I've picked for the semi-finals are Manchester City. I think they're always a threat. And while they might be a bit thin in striker depth department, I still think Haaland has more than enough if he stays fit to get into the semi-finals. And they definitely have the squad depth for it as well. Liverpool, another team that I'd rate very highly. I think whenever you see a team, usually a team has to either prioritise the Premier League or the Champions League. And when you have those 4 or 5 teams in the Champions League, you often see their performances drop a little bit in the Premier League. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they manage that. They've obviously unloaded a few of their key players in the transfer window, players that were a big part of their season last season, and they've brought in the new players. So I think a lot of their performances hinge on how quickly those players adapt. But I can still see them making it to the quarterfinals, semi-finals max. I think Salah still has more than enough in the tank to be their man up front. And then for the finals, I've picked 2 teams here and one champion that I think is probably the safe choice. Barcelona are a team that I could see going all the way. I think with a well-rested squad, Barcelona can beat anyone on their day. They had a pretty good run last year and were unlucky. And I'm really a big fan of what Hansi Flick's doing with the team. I think, another year or two of development with some of those young players they have on board, and they're going to be a real threat, not just to Real Madrid in the La Liga, but to every team in Europe. And then my winners that I'm saying is that defending champions PSG. Of course, it's hard to go back to back. Any team will tell you that. The only team in recent memory that I know have done it is Real Madrid. In my time of watching the Champions League, but I think they have everything. They have good squad depth. They have the winning mentality. I think Luis Enrique's system is fully blended with the whole squad. And most importantly, they're probably the only team I would say that are at that level that don't really have any concerns with the fact of their league. I think PSG could comfortably put all their eggs in the Champions League basket and still win the Ligue 1. I don't think you can say that for any other team that I've mentioned. In Spain, Italy, England, all of those teams have fierce competition in the league that they're going to have to work.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, we will, though, caveat it by saying anything could happen. It's football.
It's way too early. PSG could have 2-3 injuries in the first few months and then derailed, and then other teams come up. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Chelsea either in the Club World Cup final. So they're definitely, and they have a lot of depth. I mean, they have like 4 strikers. Yeah. So they could play 2 completely different teams for the phases.
Right, we're going to finish with, just because we're running out of time, the Cincinnati Open. A familiar couple of names together again here, Sinner and Alcaraz.
Yeah, honestly, it's odd to see them back together, but it's not surprising. We didn't think we'd have this kind of treat so soon. Alcaraz still leads the two head-to-head 8-5, but there's definitely a lot of questions over that Wimbledon performance, because it kind of seemed that was a turning point in the rivalry, because, Sinner really looked comfortable that day, more comfortable than he's ever looked in a matchup between the two of them, and he managed to snap a 5-match losing streak against Alcaraz. So the question is now, is that momentum going to keep shifting in towards Sinner, or is the crowd factor, because the US loves Alcaraz, or is that going to help Alcaraz in this new rivalry? I think Sinner, if you look at his strengths and weaknesses, he's been serving more consistently this season, especially on faster courts. I've been really impressed with him, and I think his confidence has to be high after that Wimbledon performance and winning over some of the best. If I was to look at some weaknesses, I think he could still sort of fade in long physical matches. So there's definitely still some questions about his endurance. And Alcaraz is a very aggressive player of the ball. So I think if Alcaraz ups his aggression and his pace with the ball, Sinner might have to ask questions and see what he has in his locker. Yeah. On the other end of things, Alcaraz, strengths and weaknesses. We've all seen how athletic he is. What he can do on the court, the shots he can make is just it's jaw-dropping. I think if we're looking at the two, I think he has more variety in his locker for what he can do, from drop shots to volleys. He can change the pace of the ball so fast. And I think mentally he has to have the upper hand here, because we've seen him, even in this tournament, be more on the ropes, I guess, in one sense, sort of struggle more in some matches, but manage to find that extra bit of pace and come back and prove himself. I think his weaknesses, he definitely has been more streaker than Sinner in this tournament and leading up to it, where he sort of unforced errors have crept in. And we even saw that in like Wimbledon, where his sort of focus can lapse, like where he was turning around to his team, telling them that, Sinner is just better. And you don't want to see that at all, because you just need to lock in for those matches. But overall, I think we can expect, long rallies and heavy hitting shots. And I can see this going to all three sets. I can't see either player having a better chance.
Absolutely. It's on 9 o'clock Spanish time tonight if you want to watch it, guys, on the TV. It's on at 9 tonight. Mark, we've exhausted our time with you, unfortunately. We didn't get everywhere we needed to go, but thank you for bringing us update. And it's so good, isn't it, to have some football to talk about. So really appreciate your time, Mark. Have a lovely day, and we'll speak to you again next Monday, same time here on Daybreak with Dave. Cheers, Mark.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.